The Interstellar Academy stood in the center of a quiet star system, far from busy trade routes and far from war. It was a place built for learning. Wide halls stretched in every direction, filled with students from many worlds. Some floated as they moved. Some walked on long legs. Others glowed softly as they communicated. Every mind there was different, but all had come for the same reason, to learn and to prove what they could do. Among all its programs, one event was known across the galaxy. The numbers duel. It was simple in idea but difficult in reality. Two learners would face each other and solve problems in real time. The questions would grow harder with every round. Speed mattered. Accuracy mattered more. But above all, understanding mattered the most. Winning a duel brought attention. Winning many duels brought respect. But staying undefeated made someone a legend. That was why everyone knew the name Zane. Zane was not loud. He did not speak much outside of the duels. But when he entered the arena, everything changed. His mind worked faster than most systems. He saw patterns instantly. He solved problems before others even finished reading them. No one had defeated him. Not once. Some said his thinking was perfect. Others said it was too perfect. But no one could deny the results. He always won. On the day of the next duel, the academy halls were full. Students gathered near viewing screens. Some sat quietly. Others whispered predictions. Most already knew how it would end. Zane will win, one student said. He always does, another replied. Inside the duel chamber, the space was clean and simple. Two platforms stood facing each other. Between them was a floating display that would show each problem. There were no distractions. Only numbers. Zane stepped onto his platform first. His posture was calm. His expression did not change. He had done this many times before. He did not look nervous. He did not look excited. He simply waited. The system announced his record. Participant Zane, undefeated. The words echoed softly in the chamber. Then the system paused. Second participant, Liam. There was a slight delay, as if the system itself did not expect anything special. Liam entered quietly. He was human. Smaller than many other students in the academy. His steps were slow, not because he was afraid, but because he did not seem in a hurry. He looked around once, taking in the chamber. Then he stepped onto his platform. No one cheered. No one reacted much at all. Most of the watchers outside barely paid attention. "Who is that?" someone asked. "Just a human," another replied. Liam stood still. He looked at the display, then at Zane. Zane did not react. The system began the duel. Round 1. The first problem appeared. It was simple. A basic sequence pattern. Zane answered almost instantly. The correct answer appeared beside his name. Liam looked at the problem. He blinked once. Then answered. Correct. But slower. The system moved on. Round 2. The problem became more complex. Zane answered again without delay. Correct. Liam took a moment longer. He seemed to think about it in a different way. His eyes moved slightly, not following the numbers in order. Then he answered. Correct. Outside the chamber, a few observers leaned closer. He's slower, one said. But he's not wrong, another replied. Round 3. The problem shifted into layered calculations. Multiple steps, hidden patterns, and variables that changed depending on interpretation. Zane answered quickly again. Perfect. Liam paused longer this time. He tilted his head slightly. Then gave an answer. Correct. Zane glanced at him for the first time. Just for a second. Then looked back at the display. Round 4. The problem became harder. Not just numbers, but logic patterns built into the structure of the question. Zane's answer came, but this time it was not instant. There was a small delay. Still correct. Liam looked at the problem. He did not rush. He did not try to match Zane's speed. He simply stood there, reading. Then he smiled slightly. And answered. Correct. The chamber grew quieter. Observers outside began paying attention now. He's keeping up, someone said. Not in speed, another replied. But in results. Inside, Zane's focus sharpened. He was not used to this. Most opponents failed by now. Most made mistakes when the problems became complex. But Liam had not failed once. He had not rushed. He had not panicked. He had simply continued. Round 5. The display shifted again. The problem now required multiple paths of thinking. There was no single clear method. Different approaches could lead to different answers. Zane analyzed quickly. He selected the optimal path. His answer appeared. Correct. Liam read the problem. He did not follow the same path. He skipped part of the structure. Ignored one section completely. And answered. Correct. Zane's eyes moved slightly. That was new. The system paused briefly. Not long enough to stop the duel. But long enough to show something had changed. Liam was not solving the problems the same way. He was not using standard methods. He was not even following the expected structure. But he was still correct. The system continued. Round 6. Now the problems were no longer straightforward. They were designed to confuse. To push logic into complex loops. To test not just intelligence, but control. Zane began calculating. His speed remained high. But there was now a slight delay between steps. Liam looked at the problem. Then looked away for a moment. As if thinking about something else. Then he looked back. An answer. He did not try to match Zane's speed. He simply stood there, reading. Then he smiled slightly. And answered. Correct. The chamber grew quieter. Observers outside began paying attention now. He's keeping up, someone said. Not in speed, another replied. But in results. Inside, Zane's focus sharpened. He was not used to this. Most opponents failed by now. Most made mistakes when the problems became complex. But Liam had not failed once. He had not rushed. He had not panicked. He had simply continued. Round 5. The display shifted again. The problem now required multiple paths of thinking. There was no single clear method. Different approaches could lead to different answers. Zane analyzed quickly. He selected the optimal path. His answer appeared. Correct. Liam read the problem. He did not follow the same path. He skipped part of the structure. Ignored one section completely. And answered. Correct. Zane's eyes moved slightly. That was new. The system paused briefly. Not long enough to stop the duel. But long enough to show something had changed. Liam was not solving the problems the same way. He was not using standard methods. He was not even following the expected structure. But he was still correct. The system continued. Round 6. Now the problems were no longer straightforward. They were designed to confuse. To push logic into complex loops. To test not just intelligence, but control. Zane began calculating. His speed remained high. But there was now a slight delay between steps. Liam looked at the problem. Then looked away for a moment. As if thinking about something else. Then he looked back. And answered. Correct. The observers outside were no longer whispering. They were watching in silence. This isn't normal, one said quietly. No, another replied. It isn't. Inside the chamber, Zane stood still. But his mind was working harder now. He could feel it. The problems were changing. The duel did not stop after the early rounds. Instead, it grew quieter. Not because the room was empty, but because everyone was watching more carefully now. The first rounds had shown something unusual. Zane was still perfect, still fast, still precise. But Liam had not fallen behind. That alone was enough to change the mood. The system moved to the next phase. The problems became deeper. Not just numbers anymore, but layered structures. Each question had parts inside parts. Patterns that shifted depending on how they were read. Zane stood still as the next problem appeared. His eyes moved quickly. He saw the pattern almost instantly. To him, it was clear. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. Everything followed a path. He solved it in his mind before most could even understand the question. His answer appeared. Correct. No delay. No hesitation. The system confirmed it. Liam looked at the same problem. But he did not move his eyes the same way. He did not scan every part. He did not follow the full structure. He looked at one section. Then another. Then he paused. For a moment, it seemed like he might be lost. Then he spoke his answer. Correct. But slower. Outside the chamber, observers began to talk again. Zane is faster, one said. Much faster, another replied. But the human is still correct. Yes, but how? Inside, the system continued. Another problem appeared. More complex. More steps. More ways to get lost. Zane answered again without delay. His method did not change. He followed the structure. Every time. Perfect logic. Perfect pattern recognition. Liam watched the problem. This time, he frowned slightly. Not in confusion. More like, thinking in a different way. He did not follow the full path. Instead, he skipped part of the problem. Ignored one section completely. And answered. Correct. A small wave of surprise moved through the observers. He skipped half of it, someone said. That should not work, another replied. But it did. Zane noticed. Not fully. But enough. His eyes moved toward Liam for a brief moment. Then back to the display. The system advanced again. Now the problems became less clear. They were designed to test not just calculation, but understanding. Some parts looked important but were not. Some parts looked simple but carried hidden weight. Zane approached them the same way. He read everything. Processed everything. Calculated everything. His answers remained correct. But now, there was a slight change. A very small delay. Almost invisible. But it was there. Liam approached the same problems differently. He did not read everything. He looked for what mattered. Sometimes he guessed. Sometimes he followed instinct. Sometimes he used methods that were not part of standard learning. And yet, his answers were still correct. The gap in time between them grew. Zane was still faster. But Liam was not failing. Observers leaned closer to their screens. He's not solving it the right way, one said. What is the right way? Another asked. There was no answer. Because Liam's way was working. Another problem appeared. This one was built to trap simple thinking. It had multiple patterns layered together. Each one pulled in a different direction. Zane analyzed it quickly. He chose the strongest pattern. Followed it to the end. Answered. Correct. Liam looked at it. He smiled slightly. Then he did something strange. He ignored the main pattern. He focused on a small part in the corner. Something most would think was not important. Then he answered. Correct. The room went silent again. That makes no sense, someone whispered. Zane's focus tightened. This was no longer a simple match. He could feel it. His method was still perfect. But Liam's method was different. It did not follow the same rules. And that made it hard to predict. The system continued. The next problem was harder. It required building a solution step by step, with each step depending on the last. Zane moved quickly. Step 1. Step 2. Step 3. Answer. Correct. Liam looked at the problem. He did not start from step 1. He jumped to the middle. Then to the end. Then back to the start. His path made no clear sense. But when he gave his answer, it was correct. Observers began to understand something. Liam was not just solving problems. He was changing how the problems were seen. Zane followed structure. Liam reshaped it. The difference was clear now. Zane relied on perfect logic. Liam relied on flexible thinking. The system moved to another round. The problems now became unpredictable. No clear pattern. No clear path. Designed to break consistency. Zane slowed slightly. Not much. But enough to notice. He was still correct. But the time between reading and answering had grown. Liam did not speed up. He stayed the same. Slow. Calm. Sometimes pausing longer than expected. Sometimes answering faster than before. There was no pattern to his timing. But his answers remained correct. Zane glanced at him again. This time, for a little longer. Liam did not notice. Or if he did not react. He was looking at the next problem. Thinking in his own way. The system paused briefly. Then displayed the next challenge. This one was different. It had no clear instructions. Just a set of numbers and relationships that could be interpreted in many ways. Zane studied it. His mind searched for structure. For rules. For a path. He found one. He followed it. Answered. Correct. But slower than before. Liam looked at the same problem. He did not search for a full structure. He looked for something simple. Something small. Something that connected the parts. Then he answered. Correct. Faster than his previous round. Observers exchanged looks. He's not getting better, one said. He's getting more comfortable, another replied. Inside the chamber, the difference was no longer hidden. It was clear. Zane solved problems by understanding every part. Liam solved problems by finding what mattered most. Two methods. Both working. But not the same. The system prepared the next round. The difficulty would increase again. But now, the duel was no longer about speed alone. It was about approach. About thinking. About how a mind chooses to face something complex. Zane stood ready. Still calm. Still focused. But no longer alone in control. Liam stood quietly. Not trying to be faster. Not trying to match perfection. Just solving things in his own way. And for the first time in a long time, the Academy realized something simple. Perfect logic could solve any problem that followed rules. But when the rules became unclear, something else might be needed. And that something was standing right there. Thinking differently. And still winning. The duel moved into a new phase, and everyone could feel the change. The problems were no longer clean. Before, each question had a clear path. Even if it was complex, there was always a correct way to solve it step by step. Patterns could be found, rules could be followed, and logic could lead to a clear answer. Now, that was gone. The next problem appeared on the display. It looked simple at first. A set of numbers. A few symbols. A structure that seemed familiar. Zane began solving it immediately. But after a moment, his eyes slowed. Something was off. The pattern did not repeat the way it should. He adjusted his method. Tried another path. Then another. His answer came, but slower than before. Correct. The system confirmed it. But the delay was noticeable. Liam looked at the same problem. He did not seem surprised. He read it once. Then again. He did not try to follow a full pattern. Instead, he focused on one small part. Then he gave his answer. Correct. The observers shifted in their seats. This is different, someone said. Yes, another replied. The problems are changing. Inside the chamber, the system moved forward. The next problem appeared. This one was harder. It had parts that did not connect in a clear way. Some sections seemed to belong to different problems. Zane approached it carefully. He tried to apply standard logic. Step by step. But each step led to something unclear. He adjusted again. His answer came. Correct. But slower. Liam looked at the problem. He tilted his head slightly. Then he did something unexpected. He ignored half of the structure. He treated the problem like something simpler. Almost like a smaller version of itself. Then he answered. Correct. Zane's eyes moved again. This time, the look lasted longer. He was noticing it now. The difference. The system continued. Another problem. More complex. More unclear. Zane began solving. But now there was hesitation. Not confusion. Just delay. His method required clarity. And the problems were losing that clarity. He forced logic into place. Step by step. Holding structure together. His answer came. Correct. But not fast. Liam looked at the problem. He smiled faintly. Then he broke it apart. Not in steps. But in pieces. He treated each part as something separate. Then combined them in a way that made sense to him. Not the standard way. But his way. Answer. Correct. The gap between them was no longer just speed. It was approach. Observers outside the chamber were no longer whispering. They were watching closely. He's not solving the same problem, one said. He is, another replied. But not the same way. Inside, the system pushed forward. The duel was becoming something else. The next problem appeared. This one was designed to confuse. It had multiple possible paths. Some led to correct answers. Some led to dead ends. Zane analyzed it. His mind searched for the best path. The perfect path. He found one. But it was not stable. The steps shifted as he moved through them. He adjusted again. His answer came. Correct. But with effort. Liam looked at the same problem. He did not search for the perfect path. He chose a simple one. Even if it was not complete. Then he adjusted along the way. His answer came. Correct. Faster than before. Zane felt it now. Not pressure. But resistance. The problems were no longer working with his method. They were pushing against it. Still, he continued. Perfect logic had never failed him before. It would not fail now. The system moved to another round. The problem appeared. This one had no clear pattern at all. Just numbers and relationships that seemed random. Zane stared at it. For a moment, he did nothing. Then he began building structure. Creating order where there was none. Step by step. He forced the problem into a form he could solve. It worked. His answer appeared. Correct. But slow. Liam looked at the same problem. He did not try to create full structure. He looked for something small. Something simple. A connection. A shortcut. He found one. Then he followed it. His answer came. Correct. The observers reacted quietly. He's making his own rules, someone said. Zane heard nothing. But he could see the difference. Liam was not following the system. He was changing it. Not the system itself. But how it was used. The next problem appeared. Even harder. Even less clear. Zane began solving. But now, his steps felt heavier. Each part required more effort. More correction. His method still worked. But it was no longer smooth. Liam looked at the problem. He paused longer this time. Then he did something simple. He reduced it. Turned a complex structure into something smaller. Something easier to understand. Then he solved that. His answer appeared. Correct. Zane's eyes narrowed slightly. That was new. Not the answer. The method, the system moved forward again. Now the problems were no longer just tests. They were challenges to thinking itself. Zane continued. Still correct. Still precise. But no longer fast. Liam continued. Still calm. Still different. The chamber felt different now. No one spoke. No one moved more than needed. Even the system seemed slower, as if it understood that what came next mattered more than everything before. Zane stood still on his platform. Liam stood across from him, calm as before. Both had answered every problem correctly so far. But the path they had taken to reach this point was not the same. The system paused. Then a new message appeared. Final round. A soft sound followed, not loud, but enough to mark the moment. Then the final problem appeared. At first glance, it looked impossible. It was not just numbers. It was layers of numbers, symbols, shifting conditions, and hidden relationships. Parts of the problem changed depending on how other parts were read. Some steps cancelled others. Some created loops that led back to the beginning. It was not designed to be solved quickly. It was designed to trap. Observers outside the chamber leaned forward. This is the one, someone whispered. Inside, Zane focused. His eyes moved quickly at first. He began as he always did. Step 1. Identify the structure. Step 2. Break it into parts. Step 3. Follow the pattern. But this time, the pattern did not hold. He moved to the next step. Then back again. Then forward. The problem shifted. Not physically. But in meaning. Each time he followed a path, it led into another layer. Another set of steps. Another pattern. Zane adjusted. He tried a different approach. A deeper analysis. More detailed. More precise. But the result was the same. Each solution path led to another. And another. And another. A loop. Perfectly built. Zane did not panic. He did not rush. He simply continued. Step by step. Trying to reach the end. But the end did not appear. Time passed. Not much. But enough. For the first time in the duel, Zane had not answered quickly. Liam looked at the problem. He did not move right away. He read it once. Then again. His eyes moved slowly, not trying to catch every detail. Just enough to understand what he was seeing. He noticed something. Not in the numbers. But in the design. The problem was too complex. Too layered. Too perfect. That meant something. Zane was still working. His method demanded completion. Every part had to be solved. Every path had to be checked. Every loop had to be broken. But the loops were not meant to be broken. They were meant to hold him there. Liam watched for a moment. Then he looked back at the problem. He did something simple. He stopped trying to solve it completely. Instead, he asked a different question. What if not all of this matters? He focused on the center. Not the edges. Not the loops. Just the core. There was a small pattern there. Simple. Almost hidden. Something that connected everything else. He ignored the rest. Ignored the extra layers. Ignored the traps. He reduced the problem. Turned something large into something small. Something clear. Zane continued. Step by step. Still correct. Still precise. But still inside the loop. Liam looked at the small pattern again. Then followed it. Not fully. Just enough. Then he reached a point. A simple point. A clean answer. He paused. Looked at it. Then spoke. His answer appeared on the display. The chamber froze. For a moment, nothing happened. Zane was still working. Still moving through the problem. Then the system responded. Answer recorded. There was a pause. Then the confirmation. Correct. A soft sound followed. Clear. Final. Zane stopped. His eyes lifted slowly to the display. He saw Liam's answer. Then he looked back at the problem. For the first time, he did not continue solving. He just looked. And in that moment, something became clear to him. The problem was not meant to be completed. Not fully. Not step by step. It was meant to be understood. And he had tried to solve it instead. Liam stood quietly. He did not celebrate. He did not react much at all. He just watched the display. Observers outside the chamber did not speak at first. Then slowly, voices returned. He did it. He solved it first. How? No one had a clear answer. Because the method was not clear. Zane lowered his gaze. Not in defeat. But in thought. He replayed the problem in his mind. He saw the loops. The patterns. The paths he had taken. And then he saw what he had missed. The simplicity at the center. The part he had ignored because it did not fit the full structure. Liam had not ignored it. He had chosen it. The system displayed the final result. Winner, Liam. The word stayed on the screen. Clear. Unchanging. For the first time, Zane was not the winner. And for the first time, the Academy saw something new. Not a failure of logic. But a limit. Perfect logic had followed every path. And because of that, it had never left the loop. Simple thinking had stepped outside it. And reached the end. Zane looked at Liam again. This time, longer. Not with surprise. But with understanding. The duel was over. But the lesson had just begun. The result did not change. The display remained still, showing the same clear words. Winner, Liam. For a few seconds, no one moved. Inside the chamber, the air felt heavier than before. Not because something had gone wrong, but because something unexpected had just happened. Zane stood in place, looking at the final problem again. His answer had never appeared. His process had not ended. For the first time, he had not reached a conclusion. Across from him, Liam stood quietly. He did not raise his hands. He did not smile widely. He did not react the way most winners did. He just looked at the display, then lowered his gaze slightly, as if the moment was not as big to him as it was to everyone else. The system confirmed the result again. Final answer verified. No error detected. A soft tone followed, signaling the end of the duel. Outside the chamber, the silence finally broke. He actually won. That's not possible. He beat Zane. The word spread quickly. Students who had not been watching turned their screens on. Others replayed the final moment, trying to understand what had happened. Inside, Zane slowly stepped back from his platform. He did not look angry. He did not look confused. He looked thoughtful. Liam stepped down as well. For a moment, they stood on the same level, no longer separated by the dual platforms. Zane looked at him. You did not solve the full structure, he said calmly. Liam nodded. No. Zane's eyes shifted slightly. Then how did you know the answer was correct? Liam thought for a moment. I didn't know at first, he said. Zane blinked once. Then why did you answer? Liam shrugged slightly. Because the rest didn't matter, he said. Zane looked at him, not fully understanding. Liam continued, trying to explain in simple words. The problem was too big, he said. Too many parts. Too many paths. If you try to solve all of it, you never finish. Zane remained silent. So I didn't try, Liam added. Zane's gaze sharpened. You ignored most of it. Yes, Liam said. That is not correct method. Liam nodded again. Maybe not. Zane paused. Then asked, then why did it work? Liam looked at the empty display for a moment. Then answered, because the answer wasn't in all of it. It was in one small part. Zane followed his gaze. He remembered that part now. The simple center. The piece he had seen, but not trusted. Because it did not explain everything. And his method required everything to be explained. I tried to solve it completely, Zane said. Liam nodded. I know. You solved it partially. Liam shook his head slightly. No, he said. I solved the part that mattered. Zane did not respond right away. For the first time, his perfect system of thinking had been challenged, not by something stronger, but by something simpler. A group of Academy experts entered the chamber. They had been watching closely. Their expressions were calm, but their eyes showed deep interest. One of them spoke. The result has been confirmed, she said. She looked at Liam. Your answer is correct. Then she turned to Zane. And your process was also correct. Zane looked at her. But incomplete, he said. She nodded slowly. Yes. Another expert stepped forward. This duel has shown something important, he said. He looked at both of them. Perfect logic can follow every path. It can analyze every detail. It can reach any conclusion, if the system is clear. He paused. But when the system becomes unclear, when it becomes too complex, following every path may no longer be the best approach. He walked through the halls the same way he always did. Calm. Quiet. Simple. But now, people noticed him. Not because he was loud. But because of what he had done. Zane remained for a moment longer. Looking at the final problem one last time. Then he turned and left as well. Not defeated. But changed. Because for the first time, he had learned something new. Not about numbers. But about thinking. And across the academy, one idea stayed clear. Even the most perfect mind can follow a path forever. But sometimes, the one who steps off the path reaches the answer first.